Hi, everyone. It's Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. About to be joined by another person called Chris Vernon, who's wearing a cap, looks like from the 1830s or something. What's the cap you're wearing?
It's just my local cricket club have a Sunday 11 called the Picnic 11, and it's their cap. Tenston Cricket Club. It's their Picnic 11 baggy cap.
So Tennyson 11?
Tenterden. It's their so their friendly Sunday team is called the Picnic 11.
Okay, let me get this right. They're a friendly team, and they're a picnic 11. That implies a bunch of fat old men who can't play. Is that what I'm?
They're like the Sydney Cricket Club, yeah.
No, now be careful there. Just because I'm wearing this C11 cap, and I happen to have a bunch of favourites here, chocolates. If Cadbury's watching, you can sponsor me. I'm happy because I'm already eating into the profits. So,
or even if there's no sponsor, just send some free chocolates. It'll be fine.
Exactly, like a dream biscuit, for example. All right, we are meant to be doing something serious here today, Chris. Please, this is not an Aussie and a Pom talk all things India. This is about the IPL specifically, and as the thumbnail suggests, it's the so-called part 2, or it's now being called the second leg, which I found interesting. Have you heard that term?
No, I haven't. I'll be honest. I actually looked at my fantasy side this morning and did some subs for it. But apart from that, I've been pretty busy, so I've been out the loop a little bit. I didn't tell you that I went and saw. Did you know that I went and met Mr. Graveney last week as well?
Did you give him the hat?
He's got his hat and his mug, yeah. So,
right. Well, and he needs to display that for me at some stage.
I'm sure he shall.
Oh, that was great. That was the England 19s and the 19s versus the West Indies 19s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Now, before we even start, there's breaking news which people are already telling me about, which I'm well aware about. The Pakistan-New Zealand tour, where the New Zealand team has actually cancelled their tour of Pakistan, has just occurred. They're saying it's about security concerns, but we've also had reports of a number of New Zealand players being tested COVID-19 positive, which is interesting. Either way, that looks not very good for that tour, which was meant to be a series of ODIs and T20s. And England were meant to be going there as well, I believe.
Yeah, in a month.
Leading into it.
Next end of the month? I think next month we're meant to have some one days over there. So before the World Cup. So I would assume that we will probably follow the lead of New Zealand, and I imagine that that might not go ahead. Although we don't know what the concerns were. From what I saw on Twitter, was that they said that there's no concerns at all. So,
well, the first reports were around COVID-19, and then the further reports later were around a security concern, which annoys me because that's not really telling us anything other than, and that's one issue. The other issue, of course, is the fact that Virat Kohli is no longer the T20 captain for India post the World Cup, which is intriguing. And there was a lot of conjecture about Rohit Sharma and his relationship with him, and even Kohli saying Rohit should not be vice captain, which I believe is all rubbish. The reality is that, that's one issue. Rick Tech was also saying the Ashes is in doubt, but that's not going to be the case. I'm pretty sure that will go.
From what I read over here is that there has been a big, basically the report is that England want to take their friends and family or family with them, and they've said that they don't want them to have to quarantine. And if what I read this week is that England might send a second team or a third team over as in protest and leave the main stars at home because they don't want to have to put their family through the 2 weeks in hotel quarantine. So I'm sure it'll be resolved, but it certainly is a talking point, and it certainly is something that needs to be nipped in the bud, I think, because it'd be a shame if England send over a second team or a third team to prove a point, then I don't think that helps anyone, does it?
Okay, but okay. Having said all of that, the reports in Australia are heading in a different direction, especially in Sydney, with our rate of second vaccinations. Well, looks like by October 11th we'll have 70% double vaccinated, and we're also testing. So that means we'll be opening up things more as of October 11th, which is a good sign. The other fact is that there's been contact with the various airlines that they're going to trial in the very near future, the next period of time, having people quarantined at home. So that means quarantined at home, which will be even a 7-day period. So if these trials take place and eventuates, we may see all this talk about, quarantine in the way that we see it currently being dissipated. So that's going to be something that we're going to that's what we're going to be seeing happening. I think I'm pretty sure that's where we're heading with that. So that's where I believe where we'll be certainly heading in the near future. So that's an interesting development as well. So my God, there's plenty happening. Then you've got BCCI basically boycotting the 5th test at Manchester, is what your dad is saying. I don't look. That test series is over as far as I'm concerned. Whether they play a game next year or not, that test series is over.
I think it's fairly obvious that the IPL certainly had a part in it. That they said that India couldn't field a side. Well, none of the players tested positive. The fact that Dubai changed their quarantine restrictions, and the players were mentally, as soon as you say mental health and mental well-being in this day and age, you can't say anything. And the players saying that their mental health was being damaged by playing in the series, yet jetting off to play in the IPL the day after. It does stink a little bit. And I'm not saying it was.
But you're not suggesting that India were concerned about playing and imagine not winning the series.
From what I have heard reported is that when the IPL was rescheduled, India asked England if they could rearrange the test match 2-3 months ago, the 5th test, because they knew that it would clash with the IPL. If that is the case, and that isn't gospel, then I would suggest that the IPL has certainly had I don't think they were scared about playing the test. I think that they just wanted to prioritise the IPL. And I'm not saying it was the only reason, but I think that it definitely would have had some bearing on that for sure. Without a doubt, I don't think you can argue that. So,
but it can't. It's not going to be called a forfeit as such, and there won't be any points assigned to England. That's for sure.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I don't know what the best. I don't know what the best situation is. I mean, it can only benefit England if they want to play it next year. We'll have Archer back. We'll have Stokes back. We'll have a full strength side. We'll have Broad back. So, I don't know. It's clear that the IPL certainly has had an impact on that test. And, if there was no IPL, then I reckon India would have probably played that game. But it is what it is. Let's not.
Okay. But the reality is, we could have also saved. It could have saved England from being beaten 3-1 too.
Could have done.
For that matter. Anyway, all right. I don't want to talk about that. We're really here to talk about the IPL, and I do understand that we have had a fair bit of discussion already about other matters. But the fact that New Zealand are playing Pakistan in a series when the IPL is on is also intriguing, because we're going to go through the sides in a minute, but it looks as though New Zealand a few of the New Zealand players aren't playing the IPL. Some of the England players are not playing the IPL. Even some of the Australians are not playing the IPL. Correct?
Yeah, and a few of the English guys have pulled that as well, haven't they?
Yeah. Bairstow, is he? Bairstow, he's not playing, is he?
Bairstow, Milan, Wokes, definitely. I know that for sure. As I said, I'm not playing. I'm reading through it now. Playing. Yeah, so I've got all the lists here. Zampa, Sams, Richardson, Finn Allen, Jofra Archer, Ty and Meredith, Jai Richardson, Pat Cummings. And that was a couple of weeks ago. So, it's just the way it is, isn't it? It's a shame.
It is a shame. And the reality is that it was always going to be destined to have problems because of the timing. All right. The reality is we still have a table, a so-called points table. And if you look at it, Delhi Capitals is on 12 points. Chennai Super Kings on 10. Royal Challengers Bangalore, RCB, are on 10. And Mumbai Indians are on 8. They're the top 4. And at first glance, you would have to argue they're going to stay the top 4. Then you've got Rajasthan Royals on 6. Punjab Kings on 6. Kolkata Knight Riders on 4, and Sunrisers Hyderabad on a lowly 2. And Bairstow's not playing for them, correct?
Yeah, and I don't know if Warner gone home as well, or
Now Warner's there. Warner's there. It's due to money. He'll be there for sure. So just quickly, we'll go through it one by one. Delhi Capitals have got to win 2 from the last 6 matches to qualify. So they're in a pretty good situation.
Yeah.
Right away. In their squad, you've got Shikadawa, you've got Prithvi Shaw, you've got Shreyas Iyer, Punt staying as captain, Storners, Hetmeyer, Axel Patel, Ashwin, Rabada, Norje, and Avish. That looks like they're 11, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good side, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got a good all-round squad for sure.
They've not suffered through this.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if that top. I'm looking at the table now. CSK were probably my big. I sort of tipped them to finish in the bottom 2 at the start. So they've been the big surprises for me. Just looking at their squad, they've been lucky that Faf du Plessis and Mo and Ali really are 2 guys that have always done okay in the IPL, but have really sort of taken the game by the scruff of the neck really and come good. Had really good tournaments so far. Deepak Chahar as well, taking some important wickets to the top. So no, they've been the surprise package really. I can't see RCB with the side that they have, although they've had probably the biggest number of replacements in that squad from what I saw. But Kohli's still there, De Villiers is still there, so I can't see them not making the top 4. And Mumbai always seem to come good at the end, don't they? So I don't know where the Royals or Punjab sneak into that top 4, to be honest. But we'll certainly see if they can.
Well, I mean, the inclusions, we'll go through them shortly on the sides. I don't necessarily think they've been strengthened necessarily by any of the players that have gone in, but we'll talk about that. Your Sunday Hapathan Thantri is saying hello. Have you spoken to Nalakshi Sharma last few days?
No, I haven't. But I did have a few messages and wished her well, but I haven't in the last few days. But
no, well, she's had her operations now. Nalakshi Sharma, everybody, as you know, has been in hospital and is hopefully recovering. So may our thoughts go to Nalakshi Sharma if she's watching. All right, so Chennai, for example, I've said Delhi Capitals need 2 wins out of the last 6 to get through. Chennai Super Kings need 3 wins out of their last 7 to get through. So they're in a pretty good state of affairs as well. And we'll go through the Chennai's team quickly. Du Plessis, Gaikwad, Ali, Mohan Ali, that is, Suresh Raina, Rayudu, Dhoni, Jadeja. Sam Curran, is he still there?
I believe so. I don't think I saw his name on the list that wasn't going to be so.
Yeah. Shardul Thakur, Deepak Chahar, and Nagidi are likely 11. And you would think that out of that squad, they haven't been, other than, I thought Sam Curran, but he's not there. So he is there. Sorry, that's okay. So just quickly on Faf du Plessis and also the likes of Tahir not being selected by South Africa for the World Cup, despite those 2 players purposefully leaving other formats to play for the World Cup, is surprising.
Yeah, sorry, cut it there. Yeah, he's difficult, isn't he, Tahir? He's a great bowler, can't really field, can't bat, but the South African squad, and I saw it briefly a couple of weeks ago whenever they announced it, and they're not. I'd be very surprised if they contend or challenge anyone. Maybe they've got De Kock and a couple of good bowlers, but as a squad, there certainly isn't anything you're going to write home about. I certainly can't see it challenging probably the 2 favourites, India and England. So
yeah, Ray PMB9 is saying it's a quota system. I don't think it is. Not regarding Du Plessis, it's not. All right, so Delhi Capitals, we've talked about need to get 2 wins up. Chennai's got 3. Their Royal Challengers Bangalore also need 3 wins out of their last 7. So it looks as though that those 3 sides have got pretty reasonable chances of going straight through to the semi-finals. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And in the so-called squad for RCB, you have obviously Kohli, de Villiers, Yuzvendra Chahal, who was not picked for the World Cup, which is interesting. His form's pretty ordinary, by the way. So Siraj, Navdeep Sani. Now, the inclusions for RCB are there's 2 Sri Lankan bowlers, as in Hazaranga and Shamira have been added to their squad.
Yeah.
And Akash Deep as well. And 2 George Garton. Now, he's from England, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Sussex side, yeah. Bowls quickly.
And who's he taking the place of? With Tim David. Those 2 players have come into the squad for RCB. So it must be wherever they're in.
Dan Christian, maybe? Is he not there?
No, Dan Christian. Well, hang on. Let me have a look. Yeah, Dan Christian's not actually. Oh, no, Daniel Christian's there. He's there.
I'm not too sure then.
Anyway, so Garton, Tim David, Akash Deep, and Chamira and Hasaranga come in. So there's been some bowling changes there for sure. I'm not sure that these Sri Lankan players actually do much, but
it's good to see them there, though. It's a shame when, I think this is the first time in IPL history at the start, when it started, that there was no Sri Lankan players in the whole thing. So the fact that they have got a couple of lads there, it is a good thing. It has to be a good thing for cricket to have, the Sri Lankan players playing.
Sure. Be nice if there were some Pakistani players. But all right, so Pawan Deshpande is there. There's also Bharat Azharuddin. Kyle Jamieson is there as well. Glenn Maxwell, of course. So RCB look very strong, for sure. And Yuzvendra Chahal will have something to prove because he's not been included in his World Cup team. The other man that's interesting is Chris Morris, the most valued player, you would argue, coming into the first part of the IPL. Didn't get a Guernsey for his country.
No. Again, that might be down to he might have opted not to play, or it might be something like that, or with the quota system. The quota system is pretty brutal in South Africa at the moment. I know that in first class cricket for sure. It's certainly going ridiculous the other way, but I don't know enough about it. I imagine it's got to be a political thing because surely a guy like that would make the squad.
Okay, fair enough. Now, the RCB likely 11 would be Kohli, Padikkal, Patidar. I'm not sure what he is. AB de Villiers, Maxwell, Hazaranga, Jamieson, Harshal, Chahal, Siraj, and Navdeep Sani. Pretty strong side. The bowling's a bit weaker, though.
Yeah, I think Jamieson, I think in the last sort of 5 years or so, the RCB have always had a lot of batting. We've always been let down by the bowling. Siraj is getting better. He's certainly not the finished article, and in the IPL format is probably not where he's going to be at his best. But adding Jamieson in there, Maxwell in there, they've got some proper good finishers or rounders in there. So, that's why they're doing better this year. I think their bowling has been strengthened without a doubt.
So again, as I said earlier, Delhi Capitals have only got 2 matches to win. That almost makes them a certainty in the top 4. Chennai Super Kings and Royal Challengers Bangalore both have only 3 wins to make. But Mumbai Indians, slightly more difficult. They've got to win 4 of their last 7, although you would think that's sufficient to make their way currently at 4th. So I would argue the top 3 are almost certainties based on their positioning to go in the table. That is Delhi Capitals, Chennai Super Kings, and Royal Challengers Bangalore. Mumbai Indians is the one that will have a slight problem, but should do okay. And of course, on their side, they have Rohit Sharma, De Kock, SK Yadav, as in Sky. They have Kishan, Pollard, Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, Chahar, Bolt. Milne comes in.
Yeah, Adam Milne, yeah.
He comes in for, I'm not sure who he's taken the place of, whether it was Southey, I'm not sure. No, he's in. So that'll be a test. So then we start to get down to the nitty gritty, and then you've got teams like Rajasthan Royals need to win 5 of their last 7. Very difficult agenda, if you ask me. And they've got a team, Lewis, the West Indian, Vora, Sampson. Well, they've got Livingston, which is a bet bonus for sure. Dubé, Parak. Is Livingston new to the side, or he's been in the side already? I think I think that he has played IPL before.
I'm pretty sure at the start of the tournament in April, he withdrew for personal reasons. I think he was one of the English guys, along with Tom Curran, that was meant to be there, but I think he'd been in the bubbles or winter with England and just needed some time, sort of some time to himself. So I think that's right. I think he wasn't there initially at the start, but he's been
No.
probably this summer in England, with 100 and the games we've had, is probably one of the biggest, sort of brightest, cricketers coming through the ranks, sort of discovery-wise in England. So, I'd be. He's a great pickup, and he has to play. If he's going to be sat on the bench for whoever he is, it's a waste.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, Rajasthan Royals lost Ben Stokes and Butler, didn't they?
Yeah.
As well. So that's
I
pretty
actually
heavy.
think it's going to be a relatively controversial, but I think in the T20 format, I think Livingston is as big a player as Stokes is, if I'm honest.
But he won't be enough, I don't think, to put Rajasthan Royals over the line. I think they're going to struggle. They've got Morris there, Gopal, Sakaria, and Mustafiz from, they're going to struggle big time struggle. Then you've got a situation with Punjab Kings, who are running sixth, have got to win 5 of the last 6 matches. That's a really tall order. It really looks bad for Rajasthan Royals and Punjab Kings. Let's be honest; they've got to win almost every one of their matches. Even though the Punjab Kings do have a pretty good side on paper, like with Rahul, May, Agarwal, Gale, Puran, Shoaib Khan, Huda, Fabian Allen, I think comes in. Jordan's there, Bishnoi, Shami, and Ashdeep. So they have a pretty reasonable line. They've lost the 2 Australians, haven't they? They've lost Punjab Kings had Giles Richardson, didn't they, and Riley Meredith?
Yeah, to be fair, they weren't particularly.
No, they were awful.
Really.
Absolutely awful.
I think we might find in my prediction for the second half of this IPL. I think the spinners will come in. I think the wickets will be tied. I think they'll be playing on used wickets because they'll want to save a couple for, a couple of fresh ones to the World Cup. So I imagine that there might be some lower scores, and the spinners, if I was going to have and I don't know this for sure, I have no idea what the wickets are going to be like or what they're planning, what the weather is, but I imagine you might see some tougher batting wickets, some tired wickets, and the spinners really coming into their own.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it will be certainly a slow-paced wicket. And that'll suit certain batsmen as well. If there were any Pakistan players in the IPL, they would have come to the fore, but they're not there, of course. Yeah. But the Punjab Kings, and they've also taken on Ellis, the Australian young bloke who got the hat trick, but he'll be raw. So they're going to be struggling. And then you've got Kolkata Knight Riders who need 5 out of the last 7. As I just mentioned before, Punjab Kings need 5 out of the last 6. The Kolkata Knight Riders have a game up their sleeve, but they're still going to win 5 matches. Really, it's almost clearly a top 4, bottom 4, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, top, I would say probably. The thing is, 5th and 6th are still within the chance for sure.
They have to really step up.
They're only 1 win behind 4th, so I would probably say it's a top 3, a next 3. Probably the 4th, 5th, and 6th are probably vying for that 4th spot. I think that the Royals and Punjab can certainly get into it. You've got sides do get on rolls in this. There's a lot of disruption, at the moment with it. So, with different players coming in, so it might be that who can hit the ground running. Really, some sides will hit it well. The sides that haven't had as much disruption, players leaving, and that kind of thing. And you might find that some sides will just get on a bit of a roll early, and you never know. And some sides might really struggle.
So Ray and PMB says is Ellis. That's Nathan Ellis, correct? He's the guy that's come in to the team there for the Punjab Kings. Yeah, overrated. Well, he got a hat trick. It's a bit early to say how good he is, but yeah, I can contest that. Yeah, Sonny's calling me mate. That's interesting. I like this. Humble in victory and be gracious in defeat. Is that England? I'm guessing that is England.
Arrogant and Victory Sterling defeat. I thought that was where you had to go
that may be the way that Seven Oaks Vine do it with their YouTube channel. That's they've got about 3 viewers at the moment. I think I'm one of them. You're one of them. No, that's not true. No comment from you. You're not going to bite.
No, I'm just reading the comments. Sorry.
Okay.
And I just tried to blank you out.
Well, you're trying to blank me out. Well, with that hat, it's not hard to blank people out. God knows what. That's an 1848 hat if I've ever seen. The W.G. Grace wore that last. Okay, Knight Riders. Shubman Gill, my God, hasn't he fallen? We haven't heard a word from him. I know he got injured, but the poor bugger is not in contention for anything at the moment.
No, but that's the beauty of it. KL Rahul was taken, come in at the start of the year. I remember doing a few podcasts after the 2020 series in India, where everyone basically, a lot of the Indian fans were basically calling for his head and, saying he should never play again. He's a disgrace. He can't bat. And he's consistently one of the best Indian players in the IPL and in the white ball stuff. And he basically is him and Rohit, the only reason India 2-1 up in that test series. So, it's amazing how fickle fans are and how quickly a bloke can change people's song sheets, because I guarantee those people are probably saying how good he is now. Yet 6 months ago, they were slagging him off. So I admire people that in controversy or when they get one chance come in and take it. I think it shows that people like that have got a lot of bollocks, a lot of balls.
Well, you could well see that Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul could be the captains and nucleus of the short form from now on, certainly in T20 and potentially even ODI, depending on how things go. All right, so you've got Shubman Gill there for Knight Riders. You've got Nitish Rana, Tripathi, Owen Morgan, who's been in pretty ordinary form at this level in the IPL. Murali Kartik, who was Dinesh Kartik, who was busily commentating all season. Mm-hmm. Andre Russell, Narayan, Varun, Ferguson, I got his spot. Now, Lockie Ferguson hasn't got a game so far. Marvi and Prasadi, who came across to the Test series, didn't he? Prasadi Krishna, I think, came across. So they're Kolkata Knight Riders are not bad, but they're just going to struggle. Then you've got really the out and out. Sunrisers Hyderabad have to win 7 games of their last 7 matches.
Yeah, I think they might struggle there.
They're going to struggle big time. And it looks like because of the fact that Bairstow is no longer in the side, that Warner's going to get a reprieve and he may be still back in the side because on default. Not as captain, though. Ridham Saha, Manish Pandey, Williamson will captain, probably Jadav, Holder, Samad, Rashid Khan, Bhuvi, who bowled well in Sri Lanka, Sandeep and Natarajan. So Sunrisers Hyderabad basically can put a pencil through them right now. They're basically gone. I would say Sunrise Hyderabad and honestly, Kolkata Knight Riders are going to be pushing it. Punjab Kings, maybe. Rajasthan Royals, I doubt it. Mumbai will probably get through, but really, the overall competition winner will come from RCB, CSK, or Delhi Capitals. That's my thoughts. What's your thoughts?
I think Kohli will lift it this year. I know I'm a fan. I just think that I think it's RCB's year.
Okay. What do you think of Delhi Capitals? Who will they verse in the final?
I don't know. It depends on. They might play each other in the semi, mightn't they? So I imagine that Delhi. It might be a Delhi and RCB. I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's a quick throw. So the major concerns are that the IPL encroached on, what encroached upon what? Did the IPL encroach upon the Test series? Did it encroach upon the World Cup? Really, did the 100 encroach on the Test series a little bit? We've got these other series that are going on. The one that was meant to go on between Pakistan and New Zealand, England and New Zealand. It's quite a mess, isn't it? We've got Australia playing India in the women's with that happening as well, which is happening in Queensland. And probably the most important thing, Chris, South Sydney Rabbitohs defeated Penrith, and they are actually through to the preliminary final next week. They are in the last 4. They're likely to make the grand final. the teams playing as we speak. Manly and the Roosters are playing, and the winner of that plays against South next week, and South will knock either of those two teams off, which will probably mean that South. Well, in fact, it looks like they're going to play Manly in the preliminary final. They win that, they're in the grand final.
Exciting times.
It's very exciting times.
I'm always cheering the rabbits on me.
That's good. What happened to that rabbit that was in your net? Did you end up capturing it, or
rabbit that was in my net?
There was you took a video of a rabbit in your cricket net earlier on in the year.
Oh yeah, that was ages ago. I don't know what happened. I imagine it didn't look very good, so I imagine it probably died. That one.
No, well, hang on. It was a good omen. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? The rabbit's death? Come on, let's start with it. The fact is that South play the winner of, looks like it'll be Manly next week, and then the winner of that match goes through the grand final against the winner of Melbourne versus possibly Penrith. Now, Penrith we beat. They were ranked second. We were ranked third. So we effectively now are in the box seat to be in the grand final, which I'll keep you and I'll probably bring Steve Maven onto the show. He'll be very excited at that point. So yeah, it looks like Melbourne. No, not Melbourne. Manly are playing South. So there's a game being played now. So Manly will play South, and we'll smash Manly. That's one excitement. All right, so back to this situation. You're saying RCB. I'm saying Delhi Capitals. We know that CSK are floating around there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mumbai Indians are less and less likely to win the whole thing, you'd have to argue, although they'll probably be in the top four.
They always seem to scrape in, though, Mumbai, and then come good at the end, don't they? I think last year they've won it. They finished fourth or third or fourth, but came good at the end. So
they won in UAE, didn't they, last year? Did they win it? They won. That was in UAE conditions, so that's a positive sign for them. Who did they play in the final? Can you recall?
They beat. I can't remember. Sorry, they beat Delhi. Okay. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, but either way, they made the final in Dubai, which is where we need to work on. So that's a pretty good summary. The major influences are the loss of some Australian, England, and New Zealand players from the four.
Yeah,
most of the Indian players are all back on deck. Shreyas Iyer is back on deck for Delhi Capitals, and most others are there too. So there's not really much changing from the Indian team players' perspective. Even Shubman Gill's back, and he was injured through the Test series. So it's going to be interesting. And look, I'm hoping it goes well. It's going to finish leading into the World Cup. And in the World Cup itself, I'm still supporting quite strongly the final four of England, India, West Indies, and either Pakistan or New Zealand. I still think Australia's got no hope. South Africa, certainly not. Sri Lanka will struggle, and Bangladesh will do better, but they may not get through. What's your thoughts?
The only thing you say on Bangladesh is that they've got a couple of decent spinners, and if the pitches are going to be turners, and where that you never know, they might. That's the beauty of 2020 cricket, is that because it's such a short format, they win a couple of tosses and can bat first, or it's quite a high variance format, isn't it? So the bangers, as we like to call them over here, the bangers might. You never know. They could be I'm not saying they're going to win it, but they might. They certainly got a surprise result in them for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're not to be sneezed at. Put it that way. By any means, just trying to work out. Oh, I've got a computer screen that's playing silly buggers on me. What's going on here? Here we go. All right. So, that's a pretty nifty summary there. Effectively, the top three, as you said, of Delhi Capitals, Chennai Super Kings, and of course RCB are pretty much only need 2 and 3 wins respectively to get through to the semis. So they're pretty much there. It's Mumbai Indians with Rajasthan Royals and Punjab Kings that are fighting out for the 4th spot, you're saying, with KKR and Sunrisers Hyderabad out of the equation. Correct?
Yeah, I don't see Sunrisers challenging anything other than maybe the second bottom. But the rest of it, there's still stuff to play for. And it'll be interesting to see with it being rearranged and halfway through, what sort of intensity or what sort of atmosphere it is. Are they going to be able to have fans in the ground? I don't know. So,
Apparently they are.
but it certainly won't be the same
Ticket sales
intensity.
have gone on. There's been ticket sales go on, so that looks almost a certainty that there will be a form of crowd there. There are tickets about to go on sale, I think, sometime in the next week. Well, before Friday, which, of course, the first match is bedded down for Friday, which stays Wednesday. It's only a couple of days away.
Yeah.
And but not forgetting, Delhi needs only 2 wins. That puts them through. Both CSK and us even need 3 wins. Pretty gettable. But then it starts to go into 4, 5, 6, 7. It's starting to become quite a hefty amount of wins for any team to make. Whoever gets through to the 4th place will have to be in a very strong streak of wins, and will have to beat the top 3 sides in that streak, I would imagine, as well, which will be a hard task.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
really a hard task.
You could see them beating one of them, but to beat 2 or 3 of them, I don't see it for sure.
So how's your season going? Are you still coaching?
Still coaching a little bit. Yeah, I've coached a little bit this week. Cricket's all finished now. I might play one more midweek game for Tenterden. That was mentioned. I think that's on the 6th.
What are they calling it? What are they calling it?
It's just Tenterden Cricket Club. It's just a normal cricket club. That's who I played for.
Tenterden?
Tenterden. Tenterdeen.
Tentiden. Tenterden. Okay. And how many games have you played for them?
Oh, it's my home club, so that's where I started. Played there in the.
No, but how many games have you played this season for them?
I haven't played any there I've moved, so I don't.
Well, that's what I thought. You didn't have any record of it. You've played for, the Grapevine. What's it called again? The
Seven Oaks Vine.
Seven Oaks Vine, alcohol, whatever they call themselves. So, Seven Oaks Vine, and of course the MCC. And you've been to Scotland, haven't you? You played there.
Yeah, played at Lords.
You played at Lords. How many? Where else have you played?
What else have I played? Just played a few other MCC games. Really it's been a decent summer. To be fair, our last league game was last Saturday. We finished 4th in the end in the Premier League. So not the worst result in the end, but season's been okay, really.
That's good, but it's over. You only have some coaching to go, and then you'll be a bit freer, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the IPL coming through, the World Cup we've talked about, then we launch into India play New Zealand at home. England are meant to be playing Pakistan in Pakistan, but that looks unlikely now. Then we have, Afghanistan's off the table for us. Australia is.
Yeah, it was the women, wasn't it, in protest?
Yeah. That leaves an Ashes series, doesn't it?
If that goes ahead.
Oh, do you really think there's any hope in hell of that not going ahead?
I think that from what I've read, it's a big sticking point. I think that Australia are trying to set the benchmark, or they're trying to be over policing, I think, on some of it, because I appreciate worried about it coming in, but these guys are all going to be double jabbed. They're all going to quarantine. They're all going to do it's I think that it will go ahead, because I think that Australia will resolve the issues. But
if it doesn't go ahead, Chris, that means Australia will not be playing Test cricket for the entire year, except for the Gabba Test. That would be horrific. The first time, I think it'll be the first time in history that Australia has not played cricket for this long.
I don't disagree. The government needs to pull their finger out, don't they, and make sure that it does go ahead. So,
well, I had my two Pfizer jabs. As I said, I think 50% of the population's had one jab. The 70-odd% mark will come October 11th or thereabouts. Then we open up for some people who have got double jabs. Then they're toying with the home quarantining for 7 days as opposed to 2 weeks in a hotel, which would suit the England family, wouldn't it? If they only had 7 days and it was at the hotel, well, that wouldn't be wouldn't be as big a deal.
Yeah. it just comes down to what they can agree. I mean, things are progressing. Travel corridors here are changing, and the infections are still quite high here, but the deaths are going down. There is, definitely some evidence that the jabs are working. So I think that it's just a sticking point with the families. I don't think the players are worried about doing it. I don't think Joe Root wants Mrs. and kid to have to do it because obviously they come over for the tour. So we'll see. It'll be a shame if it can't go ahead. I mean, but yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. But I'm not too sure.
So have you missed the show? Have you missed doing the show?
I always miss the show. I try and follow. It's just been mad busy, really. I'm away for the next 5 weekends, so it doesn't really stop. But no, of course I miss it. I wouldn't come on.
Where are you away the next 5
weekends? I'm going away this weekend for a couple of days. Nothing, just up to Chester, which is just up north, and then next weekend I'm in Leeds, and then just away with friends for a couple of weekends. So nothing too exciting. Off to Marbella in Spain for a golf weekend. So, but
there's weekdays to be played.
Yeah,
still have weekdays.
Yeah, I'll be about.
And your dad's floating around with Munchie, although they're not really IPL tragics, are they?
Oh, they are tragics, that's for sure.
We know that we don't actually know they're tragic rather than tragics. They're tragic, but they've been good. And we've had Munchie's been tented and CC. Okay, Dave, I'm hugely worried about it. What are you worried about, Munchie? Oh, OSCC were your first clubs, Chris.
What's OSCC? Cricket Club, yeah, the Goats.
So what is your cricket club, for God's sake? You've got Tenton and CC, OSCC, Sevenoaks Vine, MCC. What the hell are you? Who are you playing for? All of them?
So when I was a kid, my dad played at Old Stations, which is SCC. I played maybe 1 or 2 games there as a 13, 14-year-old, but not a lot. Munchie played, so that's where we met Munchie. I then moved to Tenston, which is just down the road, which is where I played a lot of all my junior league cricket. Emma Vernon, any connection? Ray, no, she's not. And then moved to Sevenoaks 2 years ago just to play in the main Premier League. But my home club is still Tenterden for sure.
But as you said, you haven't played a game for them all season, so hardly a regular to the team. They might ask who you are when they next see you.
I never said I was a regular, that's for sure.
All right, so South Africa. We'll end by talking about South Africa. Ray's saying it's pretty handy if I take some questions. Well, Ray, I do it all the time. Occasionally, Chris and I need to have a bit of a chat. Third jab starting room for Munchie, okay. Ashes has to happen. It will happen. We've not had an Ashes call off ever. Even when you guys destroyed the pitch there, where was it, Edgbaston that time? Someone dug up the pitch. Remember that when you were cheating like you? That was before your time, of course. But so okay, what's your take on the end of the England India series? Was it 2-1? Was it forfeited 2-all? What's the result? What would you call the results for that?
What do I think I would do?
Well, what is it now? What in your mind is the position now? It's still 2-1 as far as I'm aware. Hasn't been called anything else.
I think, and I'm not just saying this because England were affected. I think if it was the other way round, then I would have probably forfeited the game. And if England had done the same, I promise you, I would say exactly the same because I would call it straight. At the end of the day, India have, whether they like it or not, India have refused to field a side. They haven't. That wasn't called off. The ECB didn't abandon the game. India pulled out because their players didn't feel comfortable playing. So whether you like it or not, it's still a forfeit. If it had been the other way around in India, if the Test series had been in India and England had withdrawn, I would have said the same, and I guarantee that the Indian fans would have been saying, well, we could have played, England could have played, it's got to be a forfeit test. So if you take bias out of it, which of course both sides have bias, I think the fair result would either be to null and void the series or
the entire series.
Well, what can you do? How is it fair that
you've had 4 games, 3 results?
How is it fair that? Okay, so you think it's fair that India win a Test series when they refuse to play the last game?
But hang on, you can't null and void the games that have already taken place with the result.
No, then you have to forfeit the last game, and I think a draw would probably be a reasonable result all round in that series. Is it because of this? What Munchie's saying, the ECB claiming a £40 million hole. Is that the reason
for that.
Well, I mean, TV
discussion.
rights sort of pay. Yeah, I mean, they were sold tickets, had to refund tickets. So,
Well,
yeah,
what
I
happened
mean,
to Australia? What happened to Australia and South Africa when South Africa and Australia forfeited that tour completely because of COVID reasons? Does that mean that we should be paying South Africa money?
I don't. It's tough. As I said, India refused to play the test. None of their players were unfit. They were all negative. They clearly wanted to go home and play in the IPL, and that's fine. But it's harsh to tell England or tell India they win a series based off that. That's also
Okay. So are you suggesting they call it 2-2 and not play that 5th match next year?
how can you play a test match a year later? How's that
I
right or
totally
fair?
agree. I totally agree. I'm not. Don't give me that. I know. I don't think there should be any match played next year at all. That's garbage.
So you would say that India have to forfeit the test and it goes down as a 2-2 draw, right?
I'm not saying that. I just think that let the ICC make that decision, which they will, and they will override ECB or BCCI on that decision, and that is the decision we find.
I just find that it's very difficult to tell India they've won a series when they refuse to play the last game of all to play for.
Dave Sharp's got the right words. Let the ECB sue China. That's what we should be paying at £40 million. If Donald Trump had anything to do with this. And did you hear Scott Morrison's? Well, I should reply that Aussie guy down under, which the president of the United States, Joe Death Warmed Up Biden, who said that he welcomed Boris and that man from down under, didn't mention his name, for this bilateral or trilateral agreement for submarines. Did you hear about that?
I've seen it. I haven't followed it, but I did see it. Yeah,
Pretty embarrassing, don't you think?
I don't know enough about it.
But if your leader of your country, Boris, couldn't remember the Australian Prime Minister's name, that's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, but it is for sure. But that's Boris, isn't it? He's an interesting character, and he certainly divides opinion in this country for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that the series will stand. Whether it's 2-1 or 2-2, I don't really care. But I'd say
India should not win the series off that. They whether you like it or not, and the players claim mental health to be forced to play. They had 20 fit blokes, and they refused to play. And that's it. Like whether you want to butter it up or not, that is the crux. They all tested negative. There was no danger to them at all. They always want to be back for the IPL. To say that you then win a series, how can the BCCI is saying, well, let's play a test match next year instead? Well, how's that? How is it fair? You're basically pandering to the BCCI. They've basically crammed the second half of the IPL into as little time as they could when there's a T20 World Cup, Test cricket playing, and they're basically expecting the rest of the cricketing world to bend over and do what they want. If you start letting them rearrange Test series when they want, they'll just do it again in the future. It will happen again.
But can I argue if you didn't play the bloody 100, we could have started the Test series. The gap between the two sets of games.
Yeah, you could have done. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But we have that. That's been in the calendar for 2 years.
Yeah, but it's a mindless game of cricket that doesn't have any significance to anyone else but England. I'm sorry. So I don't have much time.
But that's not true. It's done wonders for women's cricket. It was the highest rated women's audience or attendance ever.
The women's cricket's got nothing to do with the men's cricket because the women's could have played it happily for as long as they wanted.
But it's cricket, isn't it? It did a lot. It's been widely regarded as a success in this country. All I'm saying is that's been the calendar for 2 years. I don't disagree.
But hang on a minute. The women's cricket's not what we're talking about here. I would love to see women's cricket flourish. I wish they'd play 5 Test matches or whatever they would between countries. I have no problems with that. It's not about women's cricket. The men's side of it was a farce. That's my thoughts.
Well, that's not what the majority of people think. In
England, anyway.
So, but that's been in the calendar for 2 years. The fact that India cancelled an IPL that probably shouldn't have been played in the first place and have basically crammed it in because they want the money for it. It's a very selfish thing to look at it. And I'm not disagreeing. I love the IPL. I'm just saying that if we're going to be blunt, it's a very selfish standpoint from India to cram this in where they can. You know,
But let's take a step back for a minute. The amount of disruption to COVID has really been the issue here. None of this would have happened had they played the IPL earlier in the year, had they had a normal season, had China not done what they've done. And I bashed it against them. I didn't say 100 was a success. I didn't talk about how successful it was. I think it was more also not the most important series. Yeah, okay. It's true. Let's move on. The reality is we have an IPL, 31 matches. We've got 3 teams that look almost certain to get through the semi-finals, with the 4th place to be decided. We've got a World Cup in the UAE as well, with 3 teams looking certainties: India, England, and West Indies, with the 4th place being up for grabs. Not unlike the IPL, with the likes of Pakistan and New Zealand. It's almost it's a bizarre similarity between the IPL and the World Cup, isn't it, Chris? You've got 3 sides that really, you would argue, are favourites for both. A 4th position which is up for grabs, and some teams that we would have expected to do well, they're doing poorly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be very hard to predict this World Cup. I think you'll find, just because every side have got match winners, and on their day they can win. So I think it's very difficult to predict who will win it. I think there's 2 or 3 favourites, but it's hard to have any more than that, if that makes sense. So.
Okay, just quickly before we finish, what do you think? Do you think Australia have got a realistic chance or not, based on the form they've shown so far?
They've got some good players, and if they can find form at the right time, it's such a short format competition that of course they can. I certainly think they might, be sniffing around the semi-finals, but subcontinent doesn't suit the Australians, doesn't suit the South Africans, doesn't generally suit the English. So you think that we're up against it in that format just because it's not ideal conditions, is it?
No. All right. The discussions about the IPL. Ray, PMB, you're being sarcastic. Of course, we've talked about the IPL at length. We've gone through all the teams, if you've been listening, and we talked about the ratings. But we have to bring another cricket because it's a multifaceted platform. IPL is starting in only less than 2 days, and that will be very exciting. But we've talked about the fact when it's more than just that. The IPL is our main discussion today. So don't worry. Okay. Your IPL, Victor, to finish before the series, we're going to have pre-sessions and potentially post-sessions for the IPL. So your predictions at this stage are still RCB?
Yeah.
Okay. What other teams are in the mix for you? Is it going to be the Delhi Capitals and of course...
I don't think CSK will be in the mix. I think Mumbai Indians will go further than CSK.
Okay. Interesting.
Perfect.
Now, this is true. Munchie's right, though. The IPL being crammed in with so many games, one after the other, some double headers and even, I believe, triple headers. There'll be injury worries for the World Cup, won't there? It'd be interesting to see if there's a final of the IPL, a final, and Rishabh Pant's there and he's playing, whether they're going to risk him for that match and perhaps risk him for a World Cup match. It's interesting. There's an interesting dynamic that's going to happen because they're literally following each other. There's only a few days between the 2 tournaments. Quite messy.
Perfect. I've got to shoot, Norman, because I've got to head out in about an hour. So
okay. All right. There's been COVID-19 still out there, but I think my only advice to everyone in England, Australia, and India, and wherever in the world is get vaccinated. As simple as that. Let's not have you dying from it. Let's have you. I think we're all going to get COVID-19, but I don't think we're all going to die, which is the main thing. All right, Chris, thanks for your time. I'll catch you through the IPL. We might get you to be there for the first few matches if it suits you time-wise.
I'll try my best for Norman for sure and come on when I can.
All right, Chris. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
Ciao.
Bye.
That was good to have Chris Vernon there. He has some strong beliefs. Yes, it is about the IPL. Sumit Awashi said, Norman, 2 new teams that can form in the IPL next opening bid is some 2,000 crores. So I believe the Gujarati, the Ahmedabad team is one, and Pune is the other. They're the 2 most likely to go in. But I have to first ask everybody, with the IPL, can we afford to have 2 more teams in this competition? because of the time frame it takes to play even the 8 teams, which is encroaching on some 60 games in total, which it takes well over, well into a month, close to 2 months actually. With the 2 more teams, that blows out, I believe, something like 80 matches, if not 84 matches, something in that region, which is quite a telling factor in this whole process. It's going to be quite a because if there's that many teams in there, that it's going to take a lot more out of the competition. It's going to drag it on to a longer period of time, even though it's a premier competition, I've got no doubt. Whether you have 8 teams or 10 teams, there's going to be a significant difference in the way that it's played, and I'm fearful of it being a bit too much. That's my thoughts on it. I think they've got a good combination the way it is now, and even in player strength, you'd argue that the player strength might be somewhat dissipated for sure. So part 2, or the second leg of the IPL, starts September 19th, which is literally some less than 2 days away. The matches will start then. We'll have a series of matches until into October, with the World Cup following straight after. Both in the same place, the UAE, with Dubai and Abu Dhabi, I think mainly featuring. Oman will feature for the World Cup. There'll be some preliminary qualifiers to that as well. Are the BCCI IPL really worried about the impact on other cricket boards and their seasons? Don't think so. Well, I think it's, Munchie, be careful, because let's not concern ourselves with IPL over BCCI or ECB over Cricket Australia or what have you, or New Zealand. The reality is it's been pressure on everybody time schedule wise. Don't forget, Australia has not played a test match since January. It's now well into September, and we won't see a match before more than likely December. And if you guys don't turn up on our doorstep from England, we'll have no tests for a year. So there's a lot of issues that are out there. But the major issue for me is that we're happy to play cricket. We've had so many issues. The European Cricket Championship being played in Spain at the moment. Yes, I've seen that. That's something to be noted. But and the women's cricket, of course, is India playing Australia here in Brisbane or in Queensland, and there's some, I think England and New Zealand are playing women's cricket as well. I'm pretty much sure. In England, there's a fair bit of cricket going on, but yeah, ICC get their money from BCCIs to spend on other countries' cricket board. I don't know whether that's the case. ICC had their own bucket of money where BCCI, ECB, Cricket Australia, and the rest all contribute to or are part of. And there was some talk about Kevin Peterson saying there'll be only 4 test teams. These are conjecture discussions. I don't think they're going to be true at all. But the reality is the IPL, we've talked today about the 8 teams, with 3 standing out with only some 2 and 3 wins respectively to make in the last 6, 7 games. So they're really in the box seat. That is, Delhi Capital's only going to have 2 wins. 2 wins. So they're literally through. Then you've got both RCB and CSK needing 3 wins. And that's pretty plausible out of their 6, 7 matches. And Mumbai Indians still probably slightly ahead with their position, but we'll be fighting with Rajasthan Royals and Punjab Kings in their position. Really, KKR and you'd argue Sunrise Hyderabad are out at this point. So it does look like it. Don't forget, we're not quite. We're almost halfway through. So really, there's no certainty of anything, but that would be the likelihood. Yeah, Simone, I'll ask you that. They may be the biggest contributors for sure because of sheer population or sheer attendances and merchandising and contributions. Yes, but South Africa are making their own mess by having their quota system. Sri Lanka are making their own mess because of their corruption and their mismanagement. New Zealand, admirably for such a small population, doing pretty well. West Indies are certainly doing a lot better. Pakistan have their issues with their selection of coaches, let alone players. With Matthew Hayden as a bizarre coaching selection, having had virtually no experience at that. And then Finlander is obviously there for the bowling side. It's not bad, but what was wrong with Misbah Huq and Makar Yunus? I don't know. I don't know what they've done wrong. Bangladesh, scratch your head. They've got all the potential in the world, haven't quite got there. So that's the issues currently. India are obviously doing pretty well. So the main concern I have is around teams that can't fix up their own backyards, or boards that can't fix up their own backyards, they need to get their act together. Sri Lanka and South Africa, great examples. 80% of the money comes from BCs over ICN, the host broadcasters of Star Sports, Fox Cricket and Sky can't afford that. It's not. It shouldn't be about. It shouldn't be about that. They all contribute as best they can, but you've got to be able to have harmony within your ranks. Stamp out corruption, stamp out mismanagement, stamp out unnecessary rules as to who can play in the team or not. That's the problem with South Africa, certainly Sri Lanka, Pakistan to an extent, Bangladesh to an extent. There are 4 of the teams that have got these issues. The other 4, well, effectively 5, if you include England, Australia, New Zealand, and the West Indies. That's 4 actually. So those 4 sides would be in a better. England, India, Australia, and West Indies are probably in a better state. Hence why those 4 teams will probably make the. Not so much Australia this time, but the World Cup will be between 3 of those 4 sides. And in the case of the IPL, whether you agree or not, having players pulling out of the IPL, like some of the England players, like Bairstow and like I think Butler, not going to the IPL, if that was at all in protest of the way that supposedly India pulled out of the Test series, well, that's just doubling up the problem. It's not actually that's sour grapes to do that as well. It's rather unnecessary to, in their opinion, boycott it. So that's also not what I would call a good thing at all. All right, guys, we've had a mixed session there, but IPL is the main thing. We've talked about the top 3 sides and their situations of 2 and 3 wins. But yeah, really, it's a matter of how the top sides of Delhi Capitals, CSK, RCB, and to a lesser extent, Mumbai Indians. Cricket is a really ill-managed sport, and the money for each series, the length of the series, different. The ICC is not useless. I wouldn't say they've done. ICC's done a fantastic job with the World Test Championship. They've done a great situation work with the likes of various World Cups events. They've also done very well with the movement of women's cricket. So I would not be so hard on the ICC. In fact, the ICC has improved somewhat compared to what they were. They're less and less, or certainly not. I don't believe they're corrupt at all. They're a pretty good position. ECB and India, BCCI and Australian cricket have certainly tried their best to be as good as they possibly can with New Zealand. I think good of Bangladesh. Pakistan have got issues there, but they're trying hard to the backlash of all the games not being played at home. But the real problem to me really is South Africa, Sri Lanka. Definitely those two countries are really, and to a lesser extent Bangladesh, but certainly South Africa and there's no doubt Sri Lanka have to get their act together, and it's indicative of the way they're playing. Yeah, IPL is successful because of the way that it's run. It's a well-oiled machine of 14 years. You can't knock it. You really can't. You can't knock it. IPL is around $12 billion brand. We can't just kick it around here and there now. No, I agree with that. It's a real pity because of COVID that it was split, and you have to be saddened by that. That was an unfortunate set of circumstances indeed. All right, guys. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get any more guests on. I saw someone else come on before they popped off. So, all right, we've had a pretty quiet night tonight. It was not as many people as I would expect, but that's because of the fact we had a discussion around the IPL and its preliminary build-up. Clearly, that's the Test cricket lull is certainly there. All right. If there are no more questions, guys, I'll end it at that. We'll consider doing something other than live next time. We might do a programmed effort on this. It's been quite interesting regarding the teams. Biggest player to look out for in the IPL, in my opinion, will be the Delhi Capitals players, namely where Punt and Shreyas Iyer come back. Then looking at the RCB squad with Maxwell, with De Villiers, and of course Kohli. CSK, they've got a mixture of some very good players there too, and we can't discount Mumbai Indians with Pollard and their experience at winning finals from any position, which is the interesting thing. They've always been good from any position on their play, so certainly is encouraging. All right, guys. Yeah, you're talking about transparency with the ICC, don't you? You watch it with FIFA. FIFA was a mess. Don't forget as well. UEFA, they were both under some real issues. Gill must be free from what? From injury, he is. Would be interesting to see how the next 3 years broadcasting rights will go, given how big the OTT platforms are, but don't get big money. Yeah, it's fair enough. Fair comment. Fair comment. I'm not going to deny that. That's what I was going here. It was the screen there. All right, guys. I'm going to end it there. We've had a quiet night, so that's okay. Join us again, hopefully, for the IPL first game 30 preview for game 30, which will be on the 19th. We'll go on from there, and looking forward to a very strong series, although Delhi Capitals, CSK, and the likes of RCB and Momentum look to be the 4 standouts. All right, all the best, guys. We'll talk to each other soon. Don't forget to view, like, and share the post. Make sure you subscribe for this channel. We'll have a lot of, in fact, Anisha will be on as well, Anisha Tucker, and we'll have likes of Aparna Saini, Gurkharat Gill, a number of people there. Baram will also be on as well. Who am I rooting for in the IPL? I've said Delhi Capitals. KKR's my side, but Delhi Capitals is a team that I believe will be the victors. All right, all the best, guys. Talk to you soon.